It's podcadzo.
Hello? Oh, shit. I can't hear fuck.
How about that?
I can't hear fuck all. Can you hear? Is your level good? You need more? Less? All right, I'm turning you up. You're getting more. Oh, fuck. Okay, hold on. In order of processional things that need to happen, I need to take a dab.
Okay.
And I need to eat pizza.
Should I talk while you're doing that? Or should we just start in
It's up to you.
I'll attempt some banter.
People want me to eat on camera, so we might as well do that, right?
Yes. Eat into the microphone too. Can you pull up the Google sheet? I want to see that.
As soon as I can find my fucking cursor. God damn it. Fucking internet. Fucking computers.
Dude, if you curse within the first minute of a podcast like that so much, it's going to get flagged. It's going to get demonetized.
Damn it. Sorry.
No.
I don't know any not curse words.
All right, well, eat your pizza. And I'll start it off. So today we're talking about Vampire Weekend, the band.
Who's that?
The indie rock band.
Tell me a little bit about them.
They formed in New York.
Where's that?
It's a city in America.
Whoa, where's that?
America's a city in the Middle East. And they released their... I don't know if I should talk about the history of Vampire Weekend yet. Let me talk about their sound, how I got into them, what Vampire Weekend's all about. So they released their first album in 2008. And
Just said you weren't going to talk about the history of them.
They formed at Columbia University before that. But they sort of took the world by storm in 2008, the indie rock world by storm. And they had two massive singles off of their first self-titled album. They had A-Punk and Cape Cod Kwassa Kwassa. And I think maybe
A-Punk was in a movie, right? That's
it
like
was in Step Brothers. I was about to get to that.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why I wanted to history a little bit, brother. Was was just to mention that A-Punk was in Step Brothers, and they had a few songs in the movie I Love You Man. I recently watched that too, but that was less of a phenomenon. That's so gross, dude. So that is maybe the first time I heard Vampire Weekend was in the movie Step Brothers, because being 12 when that came out.
You were allowed to watch it when it like first came out? Holy shit.
I didn't see it in theaters, but definitely when it was released to on demand, I watched it at a friend's house or something. So I remember hearing that song then. I remember hearing Vampire Weekend on the radio. I remember that was around the time of Twilight, so vampire stuff was big, and people were, or at least I recall hearing a few comments like, "Oh, like Vampire Weekend, like what's that about?" You know, like
people thought it was a vampire-based band.
Yeah,
like that was the theme of it.
Totally. And I guess with my naivete, thought they were maybe like a goth band, like a goth sound, or like a, I don't know, emo band, maybe with the name like Vampire Weekend. I don't know what to think. So then, Vampire Weekend does their thing. I am just living my life. That album came out when I was like, 11, 12. So wasn't really in on the music scene yet. Didn't really know. But later on, probably closer to the release of their third album, Modern Vampires of the City, I had started playing guitar more and getting more into bands, and Vampire Weekend was one that I was like, I really slept on Vampire Weekend. I got really into Vampire Weekend, partly because something I wanted to talk about where I had a dream that I hung out with them in high school. It was one of the most vivid dreams of my life. It was super weird. I had been watching Vampire.
And that was before you Got
Before
super
I was
into
like,
them?
I was just casually into them. Like I was watching a bunch of music videos of different bands, and like Vampire Weekend came up, and I probably watched like the Holiday music video where it's all of them in it.
They have a lot of really good videos.
Yeah, they do. We'll definitely talk about the music videos. And I probably watched some interviews with them, and then I had this like super vivid dream where I hung out with them, and I like kind of knew their personalities because I'd watched interviews with them the day before. So that was weird. And after that, I was like, oh, maybe I should listen to more Vampire Weekend. Maybe this is my unconscious mind telling me something. So I did. And part of the reason I liked them so much is because just coincidentally, that like sort of high life guitar style that Ezra Koenig, really utilizes on the first couple albums, I had like through Johnny Marr gotten really into high life music. And then when I came back to Vampire Weekend, I was like, oh, he's doing like a high life thing too. Like I never realized that before. So his guitar style resonated with me. And come to find out, because there's actually this great Ezra Koenig, Johnny Marr interview that he does on Time Crisis, an internet radio show, which we'll get more into on later. Ezra Koenig talks a lot about how Johnny Marr was an influence for him. And he had always wondered if Johnny Marr was into high life music.
Johnny Marr and Ezra Koenig, I think, are both influences on you, which is interesting.
Huge influences.
Yeah.
Johnny Marr, definitely my guitar idol, my biggest guitar influence. And Ezra Koenig, from a just overall musicality perspective,
Yeah. I think
a huge influence too.
a lot of the way you approach production is, I think, a lot of the same ways that the Vampire Weekend boys have kind of approached production over the years.
Yeah. Thank you. So,
yeah. That's a pretty big compliment right there, guy.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I appreciated it, dude.
Yeah. No problem.
So moving on from that. So then I was absolutely primed, so stoked when the third album came out, Modern Vampires of the City. And that was like my peak hipster indie rock phase. I was obsessed with like hipster culture and indie rock stuff. And Vampire Weekend were kind of at the pinnacle of that. And so yeah, that album was big for me. I remember the night it came out, I was having like an insomnia episode, so I barely slept that night. And I was just like listening to music and like watching stuff on YouTube on my phone in my bed all night. And that morning at like 6 a.m., I like refreshed YouTube and saw that the song Step had just been released, a single Step. And I remember watching the lyric video for that. And I was like in my bed all in a weird mood from not sleeping all night. Like the sun was just rising. It was a cool vibe. And so that song always brings me back to that. But yeah, that's a great album. And then they obviously take a pretty long hiatus from releasing music after that until 2019 when they release Father of the Bride, which was maybe one of my like most anticipated albums ever because I'd been listening to Time Crisis the whole time.
Did it live up to the hype?
It did. I gotta say, maybe my first listen, I was a little bit underwhelmed. And I don't want to say disappointed. Because I was glad that they didn't just make Modern Vampires of the City #2. And I think I had expected a different sound. And now the more I listen to it, like I listened to it on repeat through like all of that year, and it's still like heavy in my rotation. I have such a fondness for the songs and an appreciation for where they went. So yes, I love that album. I treat it differently than the first three, and I almost kind of consider like that fourth album from a different band because Rostam left, which we can talk about that later. But that definitely changed the sound and the dynamic of the group. But anyways, yeah, I'm rambling. I did love that album.
So, just to jump back for a second, basically, you discover Vampire Weekend, I feel like at a time in your life when you're also really starting to take guitar playing like super seriously and look at that as something that you want to do, like not only playing your own, or not only playing other people's songs, but also starting to like write your own songs and have your own musical ideas. So I just wanted to ask briefly, because I also know, obviously we met like back in high school, and I remember even all the way back then, like Vampire Weekend being a pretty big deal to you.
Yeah.
How do you remember a point in time when it really stuck in your brain, in the sense that like you wanted to not emulate what the songs are that they were making, but just that you really liked the kind of universe that you occupied, and you thought that it was kind of something you wanted to try and expand on for yourself?
Yeah, it wasn't until, because I was in a band in high school that you know of, Savage Cabbage, and later on, I remember having a kind of identity crisis with Savage Cabbage, where I was like, I want to make more like Vampire Weekendy music, and I want us to have like that kind of vibe and aesthetic, Savage Cabbage. So that was probably like when I was 16, 17, and like, I don't know, thinking a lot more about like the nuanced aspects of music and being in a band, and like realized I wanted like a very, because what's always been one of my favorite things about Vampire Weekend and why I look up to them so much is they have a very cogent sound and image, and it was like so fully realized even from the first album. Like I think the debut album is one of the most like it's just impressive that they had such a strong identity then on the music and the look and the aesthetic and everything. But yeah, no, so that happened where I was like kind of trying to backtrack and be like, I want to write songs more like Vampire Weekend and have that like vibe.
There's so much, I mean, there was so much strong indie music coming out at that time.
Mm-hmm.
What was Vampire Weekend doing differently that because I mean, I felt it too. I was like, I mean, they were just in a different universe, even though there's similar sounding indie music to them. They just were on another kind of echelon from what everyone else was doing, especially with such a majorly strong debut record.
Yeah. It's hard to I think for me it was just that I identified with it so personally that he had like kind of reached my guitar aspirations. So I got something from listening to Vampire Weekend, whereas like this is something I can try to emulate. I want to get really familiar with the songwriting structure, with all this stuff. So it was exciting to listen to Vampire Weekend because it was like something that could inspire me. So I think that's why they stood out so much as like one of my favorite bands at the time, and why they're still one of my favorite bands. But I think beyond that, it was just there's a lot of incredibly strong like indie rock, for lack of a better term, music coming out then. But a lot of it sounded similar, and Vampire Weekend just had their own identity, their own character. Their songs were fun and witty and short and poppy. And I think, they're just fun to listen to and easy to listen to, and people like it because of that. Yeah,
I hate to say the term like written for the radio, but a lot of their songs, especially early on, did seem like a big part of it was just quick radio bangers that will stick in people's heads.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, it's so weird that would have worked, where it's like we're gonna mix kind of like African rhythms with like a Paul Simon type thing.
It's very drum heavy, and it's also, there's a lot of very unconventional vocals on it. Like his voice is obviously very good, but he uses it in a lot of very unconventional ways. And then there's like the whole rhythmic aspect where it's just like drums, 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 drums.
Yeah.
But I feel like, I mean, again, if we're talking about other indie music from around the same time, you have like Local Natives putting out like Gorilla Manor and Hummingbird around the like late 2000s, early 2010s, and those are also very like, drum heavy
Yeah.
indie pop bangers, radio songs. But Vampire Weekend, it just exudes a totally different like energy, and it all boils down to, I think, just the way that it's produced in such a like hectic type of way, where it's just, you can't get bored of any one section because it recapitulates melodic ideas, but it reinterprets them like every time something is brought back into the fold. It's like a different version of the same phrasing or something. Yeah.
So I definitely want to talk about the sound of the first album, but first, how did you get into Vampire Weekend?
So I guess like most bands, I got into them because of my dad. I didn't discover them until Contra came out. I pretty much missed their debut and all the buzz around their debut. But the reason I really discovered them was because of also the music video for the song Cousins, which I remember vividly for some reason. I was just fucking around on the computer one night, and my dad came in and he was like, you need to check out a music video for this song. It's a super cool music video and it's a super cool song. And so I just typed it into YouTube and watched it right there. And the music video was sick, but really what got me was the drums. Like,
that song is
he's
crazy.
Playing like a crazy, it's just like single strokes on a snare, but it's just so, and it's just so like hectic and exciting. And I remember that hitting me really hard. And I was like, whoa, this is super, super cool stuff. And I liked how fast it was. I really liked how the guitar was played on that song, because it was also very fast guitar. Mm-hmm. Lots of just like sparkly, quick melodies, nothing super long, drawn out. And then, the song was just over. And I was just kind of like, oh, it's super different from anything else that I was listening to at that time, because I don't remember exactly when Contra came out, but I was still... Thanks. I was still pretty much just in like... I mean, I was in like Coldplay, Radiohead, kind of like boring indie music universe, and they kind of just like were super different from anything I was listening to or anything I had really heard up until that point. So then Contra comes out, and I listened to the whole album like repetitively, like every day I'm listening to it and trying to, again, learn how to play it on drums. I don't think that necessarily their style or like the drumming or like the production is anything that I personally have tried to super duper emulate over the years, but I definitely remember it being a very early influence in the sense that it gave me a lot of confidence in the fact that I could just play unique shit that was unconventional, and if I sold it well, like if I just sold the performance well, that's really all the song needed was conviction in the playing. And then, I mean, obviously, like, I came later on to really appreciate, like, the musical prowess of, like, Ezra Koenig's guitar playing. His voice is just crazy, and the way that he uses it is crazy. I can't remember the bassist's name. Do you know his name?
Yeah, Chris Baio.
Yeah,
Baio.
He's really, really good at what he does, I think, as far as not being like necessarily the most technically impressive bassist ever, but he does play some really technically impressive parts too.
Mm-hmm. He was a like pop punk kid.
And I could totally see that, because a lot of what he does is just like super strong backbone for them. And to be honest, there were periods of time where I thought their drummer wasn't like
Chris Thompson.
I knew his name was Chris.
CT.
I just didn't know his last name.
They call him CT and Chris Baio, just Baio, since there's two Chris's.
And Baio is Baio on Instagram, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Baio backwards.
Oh, yeah.
They all have their
I-A-B.
names back. Yeah. Ezra's backwards.
Ours.
Yeah. CT is, I don't know. Rostam's backwards too, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, moral of the story, they're all very good musicians. And I think later on, especially, when Modern Vampires of the City came out, and it was really more of, in my mind, like them trying to establish what would be like a concept sound for them. I was more, not more mature, but just like more musically in that world at that point. So I was definitely just really blown away by how many chances they took on that record and how different it was from their first two.
Yeah.
It took me a while to like really warm up to it though. I didn't like it for a while.
Oh.
And then Father of the Bride, kind of same, like it came out, I listened to it, wasn't a huge fan of it, listened to it again, wasn't a huge fan of it, gave it a few months, listened to it again, wasn't a huge fan of it. And then I kind of just have been sitting on it ever since. It just never clicked with me too much. I think, in a weird way, like, in my opinion, what that record is missing is a lot of the very off-the-wall, kind of quirky, tongue-in-cheek production.
Quirky is a good word, and that's one of the reasons I was quote unquote disappointed with it, is because it was lacking some of that quirkiness.
Yeah, and I hate bands that remake the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So it's all right that it's not like exactly the same. I just think that when I listen to it, and still when I listen to it now, my main opinion is just like not boring, but it's just like pretty down the middle. Like there's not a whole lot of really like whoa shit, except for like a couple parts of a couple songs where I'm pretty blown away. So
yeah, I feel you. I've always wanted to talk about the drum sound and style of the first LP with you.
Yeah.
Because
what just the first one, not the first two.
Well, we can get into specifically the first one.
Okay.
Yeah. Because like when I was able to listen to music and actually like appreciate each thing on its own too, when you're young and listen to a song, it's just a song. But then, when I got into making music and stuff, that's still every time I listen to the album, what I latch onto is the drum style and drum sound and how cool it is and how well it works with the guitar. And it's really interesting because Chris Thompson didn't know how to play drums before Vampire Weekend. I think he was a guitar player, but they like knew him and wanted to be in a band with him. And Ezra was like, I'm playing guitar, so can you play drums? And he kind of taught himself how to play the drums, learning those songs. So, that obviously contributes to the style of it. And then the sound of the drums they get, I think they were going, I feel like I've heard this in an interview that they were going for like a Paul Simon Graceland drum sound, which I can kind of hear. And it's a very like raw, roomy drum sound that I've tried to emulate before in mixing drums.
It is
it's difficult
kind
to capture.
of. It's also just, there's parts where it's just like up close and punchy. Like,
yeah, true.
It's all the way up inside the fucking drum, and you can like, all you can really hear is stick contacting head. I feel like there's a lot of moments on that record that are kind of like that too.
Yeah. So, you said you never wanted to emulate that drum style, or, never was inspired to, but
not necessarily that I never did do it, just that I never specifically was like, oh yeah, this is my dude. Like,
right, yeah.
There are other drummers at the time where I was like, I want to play like the way that dude plays.
Yeah.
And yeah, Chris was never particularly like that for me, but
yeah. And I think he's like, there's a sense, you get a sense listening to it, and maybe this is just because I know he wasn't a drummer before this, but you get a sense like that at some points he's like really trying to hang on to it, and then it is like stitched together and kind of funky and like weird.
Yeah. And I got a sense even back then, because I was one of those like, I wasn't like an asshole, but when I was a little younger, or when I was like a lot younger, we're talking like 15 years ago, shit.
Oh, God damn.
But anyway, basically, back then, I really approached drumming from like a very like serious headspace of like, you have to be legit, your technique has to be good, you have to be like technically impressive. I was just one of those kids where what it really impressed me was like people that could play the instrument properly, like the right way.
Yeah.
And you could watch him really, especially, like Second album, it's still there, but first album especially, you can watch him in his playing and see that he's like very stiff.
Yeah,
moves around the
it's kinda
kit like
clumsy.
very awkwardly.
Yeah.
A lot of his drumming style is just super unconventional, and I think you would not really you wouldn't write drum parts like that if you had been drumming for a really long time. So I think that's the positive part of it. And obviously I'm not like that anymore. Like a lot of my favorite drummers are ones that have totally just adopted their own technique and do literally whatever they want and don't pay attention to the conventional ways of playing the instrument. I think that I've pretty much come full circle on that. But a lot of his drumming parts you can kind of tell were just like him doing the best that he could for the song, which is I think probably what you mean when you say like he's just barely hanging on. Like there's times where it's like, oh, why, like, that's not what I would do there.
And I think Ezra had a similar thing with his guitar playing, because I know this now from interviews that he could also barely play the guitar. He had I think he said he had gone to guitar lessons like just long enough to know like notes and how to play, and then he was like, all right, I just want to go off and kind of write my own stuff now. And that's also a sense you get in the guitar playing on the album, is like he's not like weighed down by technique or all this experience. Like he's really like feels free to explore the guitar, and like that resonated with me because I was a similar way where I hated learning other people's songs. Like as soon as I was like proficient enough on the guitar, I just wanted to like fuck around and like try to write my own stuff. So I thought it was cool that he had done a similar thing.
Definitely. And I think, that's like really how I think that's really like how I learned music. And I think that's how a lot of musicians that I really enjoy learned music also. I think, a lot of musicians that are super good also learn music like the right way, by taking lessons, getting theory like down to a T, reading music and like really understanding the theory of it. But
often those people, they like can't come up with anything original.
They can't.
They're so weighed down by what they're supposed to play
and wanting to do things like a certain way.
Yeah, like I know I always call them like guitar center players, like dudes who
just shred.
Yeah, they know every Led Zeppelin riff. They can play them perfectly, but all their shit just sounds so stock. And because that's what they know how to play. It's like they know how to emulate other people well. That's not saying like I'm like super original, but I think I had a better chance of like figuring out my own style because I barely knew how to play. It was like just trying to write stuff.
It does kind of free you in other ways too. Like, had Chris been a drummer for years and years and years, or like his whole career, like he would have been writing way more probably down the middle conventional drum parts for those songs. And had Ezra been really confident in his like foundational guitar playing, he probably wouldn't be doing the weird unconventional things that he's like known for doing on the guitar. I think that's like how a lot of people can develop their own sounds and their creative like voices. But that's not to say you can't be creative if you like go to school or know the total foundation of everything. Like I know a lot of people who are super, super talented who obviously like went to school, can sight read, and they're proficient in that universe, but they're also completely creative in the sense that they can write like anything and they know exactly what they're doing.
Totally. Yeah. If you're a creative person, like being really technically proficient is only going to help you.
Yeah.
But I think that's a lot of people, they just like the mechanics of playing the guitar or the drums, but they're not necessarily like.
That's why these bands are like.
Brain.
That's why these bands are like, I think, wind up being the ones that people connect to also, because it's just like less about the musical like show offiness, and it's a lot more about just the let's feel good, let's make songs that are catchy, and let's do what we want to do and just sell it like fully.
So you wrote on the sheet something I want to talk about too, the polarization of Empire Weekend. Are you referring to like the preppy, like rich kid polarization that they got off the bat? Or are you talking about something else?
I have no idea what you're talking about. What are you talking about?
So around we were too young to appreciate this when Vampire Weekend was first coming out, but they got a lot of shit from the music press and from some other bands about being from Columbia, sort of an Ivy League school. Rumors started that they were like kind of industry kids or like rich kids because Ezra Koenig's dad worked in props in like TV and movies, I think. And because they went to the Ivy League school
That
and
explains a lot
because
about
they had
Ezra.
because they had such a preppy look, which was intentional, obviously, people thought they were rich. So there was this big polarization of people being like, fuck that band. They're a bunch of preppy rich kids who's, I think their dad paid
Wow.
to get them a record
I did
deal.
not know that. Is that
When-
why? I mean, there's so many like tongue-in-cheek lyrics that like make fun of those people.
Exactly. And so it was like a very conscious approach. It's like we are trying to look preppy and we know we're from an Ivy League school.
Wow.
And,
The music also, I mean, like, you could argue that it sounds preppy.
yeah.
It's like,
Totally.
woo-hoo-hoo.
Yeah. And, the very, Ezra Koenig was an English major and they're a very, how do I want to say this? With the witty lyrics and stuff, they're kind of a literary band.
He
sort of.
definitely, he's a very literary dude.
Mhm.
He uses a lot of super big words in his songs. Not super big words, but like medium big words in his songs. And he does have a very like, there's a very...
So sorry to interrupt, but there's a quote there that nobody in our band is a wasp. And so it's funny because that's
there you go.
they were like a bunch of preppy wasps. And Ezra Koenig is Jewish. Rostam, his family is from the Middle East. I don't exactly remember where. Bayo, he might be Jewish too. I'm not totally sure.
He
And
seems
then CT, but they all come from like working. None of them are rich. They were all very middle class. They all had like scholarships or something.
They
to
all
go
even
to.
still really seem
Yeah.
middle class, despite being on like the biggest record label.
So
in the
it's
world.
funny that because looking back, it was so obvious that they were like, we're consciously adopting this waspy, preppy look. And like it fits into the theme of our band. And it's a cool, funny, ironic way to dress. And it's so obvious that it was like something that's conscious. But people were still like, oh, I don't like them because they're preppy.
That's funny.
Yeah. And then I think what fed into that too is they were like one of the prototypical MySpace bands where they had a huge following in MySpace, and like they were the first band to kind of have a buzz in like online music blogs and stuff. They really caught that like second wave of internet stuff.
There's a lot of shit here that I think really like explains, I mean, their history in a lot of ways kind of stays true to that. Like, and a lot of that wound up being like, it started facetiously, but it all became like seriously influential. Like the way that Ezra dresses now, like, is influential. Like, when they play shows, there will be like Consequences Sound articles like about what Ezra wore on stage. Like, it's
he's
crazy.
Definitely expanded the drip now.
He's got a lot of drip.
There's
90s drip, like,
totally.
mostly.
I know. We can talk about that later. But he had a rule I remember for the first album, all the shows they played after the first album, that everyone had to wear a collared shirt for every show. Like, you couldn't just wear a t-shirt, you had to wear a collared shirt.
I love that.
Yeah.
There was when Arcade Fire did their Reflector tour, they like asked everyone to wear like suits, and like a bunch of people did, and it was like you're on the floor looking around like, holy shit, everyone looks amazing.
Yeah.
And then it's totally changes the atmosphere of the show.
Yeah.
It just feels like a huge party.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, so anyway, really what I meant by the polarization of them was, I guess, just kind of in that universe, but more broad strokes of just kind of in the same way that we were talking about how U2 is polarizing in the sense that a lot of people fucking hate them.
Yeah.
I think that especially, their first two albums, there were a lot of people, it had critical acclaim, but a lot of things that get critical acclaim are not necessarily accepted by the masses right away.
Yeah.
So I felt like back then, because I was a huge defender of Contra I loved that album. I always came across people who were just like, yeah, they just kind of suck. Like, they're all over the place. The dude's voice is annoying. Like, the drummer can't play drums, you know. Yeah, all those type of things. And I mean, there's a lot of songs. I can't remember every song on the track list, but there's a lot of weird ass songs on Contra. Like,
oh yeah,
Horchata's
like,
fucking
Horchata,
weird.
White Sky is weird. Even like Holiday, huge hit, but
Yeah,
strange song.
pretty weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess wanted to not really talk about that, but just bring light to the fact that, yeah, I mean, even to this day, and I mean, there's even Vampire Weekend fans that like their old stuff that aren't big on their new stuff, which I think I fall under that category as well. I think for the most part, it's really just like crazy to think about the fact that such a acclaimed band is so polarizing at the same time.
Definitely, yeah. I think nowadays though, there's a lot of love for Vampire Weekend, and like if you know who Vampire Weekend is, you like Vampire Weekend.
They're one of those bands that has like a very huge, very diehard fan base. Like,
yeah,
especially I think when you wait, what was it, like 5 years to put out a record?
Yeah,
there's going to be a lot of people that just start to latch onto your older discography, and they just are anticipating new shit.
Yeah, and then they with the new album and the tour they did after, they created such a dope, like, totally rebranded themselves. Like, there was all these funny things about Vampire Weekend being a jam band now.
Yeah.
And like, you know, because they did extended jams. They did like a cover of Joker Man. They always joked about doing an 8-minute Cape Cod.
They added
Kwasa.
They added like
drummer.
the percussionist guy.
Percussionist. When I saw them at Red Rocks, they had 2 drum kits and a percussionist.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Yeah. And a bunch of other members.
I think this is also interesting, and I think I never knew really that I guess you said they were only going for like Graceland drum sounds, right? On the debut, it wasn't like they just wanted to make a Graceland record.
No, yeah, just the drum sounds.
Okay, I feel like
that could be an unfair comparison.
Maybe now, this is like the closest they have actually gotten to making like a record like that. Kind of a Graceland record. It's pretty big.
It was a double LP technically.
Yeah, there's a lot of fucking songs, and it's also, I mean, God, it's like kind of, like I said, down the middle, but also it's like all over the place. Like, you've got acoustic bangers, you've got like weird, like electronically influenced, like progressive bangers.
You've like got the first song is almost, and like songs like Gold Rush are almost like country songs. And
yeah, you've got like twangy shit happening.
Kinda, yeah, with what's her face from Haim.
And all the art's completely different too. Like, I mean, they abandoned their weird, like, not weird, but they're just standard like stamp text on the album cover.
Exactly, like some weird Polaroid picture. With
there's no borders on it. All of there's like, it's all like Earth inspired, right? Or
they did like almost like tribal, like hieroglyphic rainforest imagery. Like the logo, the big logo is a frog now, like a tree frog.
That's right.
And at the show, they had this big inflatable frog.
There's a frog on the stage.
Yeah. No, they had it out, like walking up to Red Rocks. There was this massive.
Oh, I thought they had a frog on stage.
They might do that on stage too, but the Red Rock show specifically was just outside. Yeah, and they had like cool stage props and stuff. So yeah, it was like a total re-image all the way across the board of rebranding.
And they really, not that they started out minimalist, but they started out pretty much just like straight 4-piece, like one person playing one instrument, not a whole lot of layers to it. It was like chopped up and pretty like weirdly like layered in the sense that the transitions and shit were all different, but the music itself wasn't like super massively arranged. And now there's like a lot of really big arrangements on it, like
totally. The production
multiple parts,
huge,
lots of layers, huge production.
So that, I won't harp on this, but I think kind of the unsung hero of the first 2 albums is Rostam. and what he brought in terms of keyboard parts and just layering, background vocals, harmony guitar parts. He studied music in college, I think, and I think he wanted to be like a composer.
Okay.
And so he was probably the most technically proficient of everyone in the band, and he brings a lot to it. And it's amazing how well his style and Ezra Koenig's fit together.
Yeah.
That they're both sort of preppy and grandiose, but at the same time almost like cartoonish and fun and quirky, like we were
Lots
saying.
of goofy, tongue-in-cheek type shit.
Yeah, and
What,
I'll make a plug real quick for Rostam's solo stuff if
Okay.
you haven't listened to it,
No.
especially his. I think he released the album a year or 2 years ago. It's called Changes, I believe, or Change, and great album. He has a really cool sound.
Why
And,
did he leave Vampire Weekend?
I think there were like minor creative disagreements. He seems to have left on good terms, and he did help produce a couple of the songs on Father of the Bride. But he
Interesting.
was producing Hamilton Lighthouser around like after Modern Vampires, and he produced a few other artists. Like I think he produced Charlie XCX. He was like working with a couple other artists.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then I think he just wanted to do solo stuff as well. So
Okay.
I think it was like a mutual, do your own thing, and yeah.
He just wanted to do his own thing. So many people leave great bands to do their own thing, and then I never
I know.
ever hear from them again.
All of Bayo and CT also have solo projects. Bayo did like a solo thing just called Bayo.
I think I knew about that because I follow him on the gram, and he was
Yeah.
posting there for a while.
It's very Vampire Weekend-esque, and he has like this baritone sort of voice. So it's basically just Vampire Weekend with baritone voice, and it's pretty cool. And then CT had a band called Dams of the West where he played drums, and I think he sang too. I'm not too familiar with his solo stuff. And then Ezra hasn't had a significant solo career, but he produced that Beyonce song Lemonade, won a
Right.
Grammy for that. He did guest vocals on like a Major Lazer song, and then he actually wrote bringing it full circle back to our Britpop Oasis episode. He is credited as the songwriter on a song from Liam Gallagher's latest album. And there's a Time Crisis episode, where Ezra Koenig talks about going to London and working with Liam Gallagher on the song. I was
Oh
like,
shit!
this is worlds colliding for me.
So like, it's interesting too because they don't have a huge discography.
No.
They're not like the most established band in the world. Ezra Koenig's definitely not like, I wouldn't say he's like a household name by any means.
Yeah. But I
It's
think
always been interesting. How does he wind up working with so many huge, and like, I mean, even on Time Crisis, like it seems like he can just get anyone on that show that he could ever want.
Yeah.
And he's just so established. What is that?
My impression is that he's just really well regarded. And although he's not
married
this
to
hashousehold
fucking
name,
Rashida
he's married to
Jones.
Rashida Jones.
Like,
that
how the
probably
fuck-
hasn't hurt with the connections. But I think they. Sorry, I'll come back to what I was just talking about. But I think the Rashida Jones thing is for Parks and Rec, they wanted to use, is it M83? That vampire? Yeah, I think M83 for the theme song for Parks and Rec. And for whatever reason, they couldn't make it work out. But if you listen to the Parks and Rec theme song, it's a total Vampire Weekend ripoff. But I think that's maybe the Rashida Ezra connection is through Parks and Rec.
Interesting.
Anyways, why he has so much prestige is that I think he's just like a likable, low-key dude who has a lot of respect in the industry and has like a proven track record for like being a good songwriter. And he knows like a lot of heavy hitters, like producer types and stuff. And I think just has friendships with them, so they reach out to him. And yeah.
Wonder how much of it is collaboration that like he seeks out.
Yeah, from hearing him talk about it on Time Crisis, it seems like people mostly
are
reach
just
out to him,
busting down his fucking door.
And he did a song for the Peter Rabbit movie. Remember, he did one of those. And yeah, I think he just gets hit up. I think Vampire Weekend has such a sound that if people are like, I want a Vampire Weekend type sound, and obviously Ezra.
But then, like, yeah, you brought up Lemonade.
Yeah, that's
like,
not
what the like
that one has an interesting story because it started with a tweet that Ezra Koenig had, which was a reference to the Yeah 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 song Maps, and it said, "Hold up, they don't love you like I love you," instead of wait. And like that's how because that lyric is used in the Beyonce song. So I think they liked that. Hold up, they don't love you. And then it just went from there.
Jeez.
Yeah. Funny story. I've heard him talk about it.
One of her most streamed popular songs of all time.
Yeah. Yeah. And they won a Grammy for it. I
think we really covered like a lot of this middle part here.
Yeah, we did. We've covered a lot of ground. I wanted to talk about Time Crisis.
Yeah.
Which I've mentioned a couple of times, and that will take us to Ezra and Seinfeld.
Okay.
So Time Crisis is a big reason why I'm such a huge Vampire Weekend fan now is in 2016 when I was in college, I got an Apple Music, was scrolling around and saw that there's a radio show called Time Crisis on Apple Music. And I saw the description and it was like, Vampire Weekend's Ezra Koenig. I was like, oh, cool. I like Vampire Weekend. I really like Ezra Koenig. Let me listen to this. And it's become by far my favorite internet radio show of all time. And important to distinguish it from podcasts. It's not a podcast. They can play music freely on it because it's on the Apple Music platform. They release episodes bi-weekly. He has his co-host, Jake Longstreth, who you have there, who is brother of Dave Longstreth from Dirty Projectors, another great New York indie band. And yeah, that's hilarious that it says they have guests like Jonah Hill, Rashida Jones, and Jamie Foxx. I think Jamie Foxx was on like the very first episode.
That's awesome.
Super randomly.
Dude,
yeah.
Jamie Foxx is such a good interview always.
Yeah.
Like he's so crazy. He's so smart and just like fucking talented. So why is this guy why is Jake part of this?
Jake was he didn't come into the show until like episode 50 or something, and he was just supposed to be a guest for one episode because Ezra and Jake are friends. And Jake is he's an American painter, musician, and internet radio personality. That's his Wikipedia definition.
Yeah.
Very impressive dude. But he's primarily an artist and amazing painter, but he also was like a touring guitar player for a while. He toured with Ezra, I think, in Dirty Projectors when Vampire Weekend and Dirty Projectors played. So they were friends, and he just had Jake on as a guest one episode, and they had such a good chemistry that Jake ended up becoming just the co-host. And so he's been on it ever since then on every episode. And now they have a really good lineup of Ezra, Jake, Seinfeld 2000, and then a couple of the producers chime in every once in a while. So Seinfeld 2000 actually started off as an enemy of the show. He would prank call them all the time. He
That's
was a real,
so funny.
He was a real menace.
Wasn't Seinfeld 2000 also just like an established meme page at that point?
Exactly.
Okay.
It was the whole concept for the meme page was what if Seinfeld was today in the 2000s? So you would just like repost old Seinfeld memes and, rewrite them for what was going on in the world today. So yeah, they had this funny plot line where Seinfeld 2000 was a enemy of the show, and then he ended up coming on as a regular contributor, and he's sort of their number cruncher now. He's like their data guy. Whenever they need research done, they have Seinfeld 2000 look stuff up. So that started a kind of funny Seinfeld theme to the episodes, that they have a connection to Seinfeld and like an interest in Seinfeld. And then for the music video for Sunflower, a song from their latest album, Jerry Seinfeld was in the music video.
And
Jonah Hill directed it.
Okay, I was gonna say, isn't it Jonah Hill directed?
Yeah.
And hasn't Jerry Seinfeld been on Time Crisis?
He has not. Larry David was on briefly one episode because his daughter, Cassie David, is a regular guest. And they talked to Cassie. And one time Cassie was at Larry David's house just hanging out doing the interview, and Larry David walked into the room. I was like, what are you doing?
And so does the Seinfeld obsession just come from Ezra's childhood or whatever, having his dad
and
TV?
I think him and Seinfeld 2000 were friends outside of the show.
Okay.
Like, you should be on the radio.
They didn't just become friends through the internet?
It was probably through the internet.
Okay.
But yeah, I think, that started outside of the show, and he started coming on the show.
That's funny.
So Time Crisis is a recurring, or Seinfeld rather, is a recurring theme on
Seinfeld 2000 has producer credits.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
So he's had Alanis Morissette.
Yeah, that's a good episode.
Florence Welch, Mark Ronson,
Mm-hmm.
James Corden, which is interesting.
James Corden was horrible.
I bet.
That was the worst episode.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Fucking
Dude sucks.
piece of shit. Azalea Banks. Yeah, that's cool. Ed Drost from Grizzly Bear, who I love.
Uh-huh.
T-Pain. Justin Vernon from Bon Iver. Huey Lewis.
Yeah, Huey Lewis was good.
Yeah, that's a lot of cool people. I should definitely
They
check
had
this
Ed
out.
from Radiohead.
Oh, Ed O'Brien.
Yeah.
That's cool. Also, kind of fuck Ed O'Brien. No, I just recently learned that he's like the main reason why there's kind of a halt in the Radiohead, because he just wants to like work on his own shit instead.
Yeah, he was on there
shit's
promoting his
fuck
solo.
you.
I listened to it. I was like, not into this.
Yeah, his solo record is
It's dog water, dude.
it's pretty mid. Yeah, I can't lie.
It's mid as fuck.
All right, well, cool. That's
that's
interesting.
That's Time Crisis, and if you have Apple Music, I definitely recommend checking it out.
I'll check it out.
Episodes
I don't
come
have
out
Apple
bi-weekly
Music, I don't think.
on Sundays.
Actually, I think I might have Apple Music. Whatever.
Yeah, it's a fun listen.
So then I guess that pretty much covers the Seinfeld shit too. I just wanted to mostly touch on the fact that Ezra survived on being a meme lord in the 5 years that Vampire Weekend wasn't a band, because
I know
again, he would post a Seinfeld meme and then there'd be a fucking Consequence of Sound article about it, about how Ezra shared a meme.
he had
It's
huge. He was a big Twitter presence early on. I remember on my days of Tumblr, a lot of Tumblr content being just screenshots of Ezra Koenig tweets. He's some funny stuff.
Does he still use Twitter?
No, he's totally off the socials.
Okay.
From what I've gathered. But not only is he a meme lord in that sense, but he himself is featured in one especially famous meme, which notably Cardi B once posted.
Oh.
Probably having no idea who Ezra Koenig is.
Yeah.
Just seeing the meme. It's the one of pull up a Ezra Koenig meme. You'll recognize this, I'm sure.
I'm just going to search Ezra Koenig meme.
Yep. There it is, first result.
Oh.
That one.
It's not even a very good meme.
I know.
It just says, for the listener, when you take a free sample and pretend to care about the product, and then it's just Ezra pondering. Wow, thanks a lot, Cardi B, for making Ezra relevant by just literally sharing literally, Cardi B retweets something, and then there's an article about how it has Ezra Koenig in it.
Yeah. Well, that was I'm sure that was a crazy news day for people at Pitchfork.
Yeah, they were like, holy shit.
Holy shit, guys.
that's not even crossover.
No.
But it is close enough for them to all shit their fucking pants.
Yeah.
Cool. Memes are so weird. Culture is so interesting these days. Yeah. So I know you talked about this at the very beginning, but I want to know what the specifics are of this dream.
Well,
that
that's
you
what's
had.
funny about it is it was so boring, dude. Like, I just like.
But you said it was
hung
so
out with
vivid,
them.
too.
It was so vivid, but like we just did boring, normal shit in very vivid detail.
Like went to the grocery
went-
store.
I think we went to a restaurant, and then we just like hung out at the restaurant, and then we were walking around town somewhere.
Did you
Sometime
know
I
like
don't
who
know.
they were? By
Only
name?
because of
Your deep dive.
my little deep dive into them, like watching interviews and stuff. So I like formed some version of their personalities in my head. It was mostly Ezra I was talking to, but yeah, I remember.
Were
the
they
next-
all like, "Hey, Colin, like, what's up, dude? You want to hang out?" Or were they just like,
No, I think it was just like we just ran into each other,
And you
I
just
think in the
decided to
dream we
stick
maybe
together?
already knew each other. Maybe we're just like hanging out.
"Oh, we're on our way to this restaurant, and
Yeah,
you can come
we
if you want." And you're just like, "Oh, well,
Yeah,
all right, Vampire Weekend, I guess." So.
and then I'm not ashamed to admit it got super gay later on.
Oh, you guys all like fingered each other and stuff later.
Yep.
Buttholes and
Yeah, we
buttholes
fingered
and shit.
each other's
Docking.
penises.
Put your
yeah.
cool.
Mhm.
That's that's how all my dreams end too. All right. Well, I think we're nearing the end here.
Yeah.
Do you want to close out on?
Let's rank favorite albums.
Okay,
Let's do it.
it's really easy because there's only four.
Yeah.
So I'll go first because mine is less thought out probably and less significant. But I'd put Father of the Bride in 4. And just because I still think it's kind of boring and shitty.
Fair
I like some moments of it. I don't even know. Okay, fuck. What's the song called that goes like
Oh yeah, that was in an Apple commercial.
with like the double bass.
Yeah,
That song slaps.
that is a good song. Blanking on the name right now.
But other than that, there's only parts of songs that I like. I don't think there's really songs that I dig all the way through. And then number 3, I would probably put Modern Vampires of the City, which I love. I think it's a great record. And shout out to the song Step, because the beginning of that song is so fucking good. It hits so hard every time. I feel like in some ways, the whole rest of the song isn't as good as the first like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
But whatever. And then second would be the self-titled. And then first would be Contra. Because, yeah, Contra is the one that I really grew up on. And I think just fully enveloped it, like, from start to finish. I was just like, this whole thing is fucking masterful.
Mine is probably the exact same as yours, but I think I would put actually the first self-titled LP as my first. So I think I just like them in chronological order. 4th being my least favorite, 1st being my favorite.
Reverse chronological order.
Reverse chronological, yeah.
I think I don't know, the first album and the second album really could be just like one continued gigantic album in some ways.
I've heard Ezra Koenig describe the second album as it's their California version of the first album, which I think
it's fair.
Yeah, makes sense. Contra, I've spent more time with Contra probably, and I appreciate those songs more and the production more than the first album. But the first album just means a lot to me for whatever reason, just because I listen to it so much and love those songs. And Cute Story, it's actually kind of how Julie and I started talking. We knew each other, but we had an art class together. And I was listening, I had my earbuds in, and she asked me what I was listening to, and I was just listening to the first Vampire Weekend album. And I told her, she was like, I love Vampire Weekend. And she loved that album too. And so yeah, that album holds a special place in my heart. That's probably why I would rank it above Contra.
That's cute.
But yeah.
Now you guys are miserable together as adults.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Now we're just going to Vampire Weekend shows in 2019 and be like, what the fuck happened?
The world is so fucked up.
Yeah, dude. Nothing happened like I thought it would happen.
Hell yeah. Well,
Good at, bro.
you got anything else?
No, I don't think so. Have you listened to Definitely Maybe yet?
No.
Dude. Please do.
We'll see.
Seriously, listen, definitely, maybe. Dude.
Okay, so here's the thing. I only have so many hours in a day that I really
Just play it at the store. Play definitely, maybe.
I can't play
its entirety at the show at the store.
Oh man, sounds like a good way to get everyone to quit.
Fuck you, dude. Sounds like a good way to get everybody to be
Quit
cool as
and
fuck.
kill themselves.
Anyways, I've been listening from our previous episode to the Them Crooked Vultures album
Really?
a lot on repeat. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Mhm.
What do you? You'd listened to it before, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I
it's
was
not
my-
like the first time.
I guess I never listened through it in its entirety.
It's kind of long.
It is long.
It's almost an hour.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just over.
got
But
a
yeah,
lot
a
of-
lot of long songs,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of sections that kind of
Yeah, some crazy sections.
come out of nowhere.
They're like their sections, that band.
They got good sections.
Yeah. But Dead and Friends is a banger of a song. It's in the Skate 3 soundtrack, which is my favorite video game soundtrack ever.
Bandoliers is a fucking great song.
Yeah. I've been watching a bunch of their live videos on YouTube and stuff from back in the day. It's been fun.
Yeah, cool. I've been listening to a lot of Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
More grunge.
Yeah, from the grunge sode.
Yeah.
Mostly Melancholy, which is interesting because I told Cam that record was inferior to
Siamese Dream.
Siamese Dream.
I've been listening, actually, after that episode, I listened to Siamese Dream. I remember I played the whole album the day after that episode.
Forgot how the song Silverfuck goes pretty ridiculously hard.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, Silverfuck's good. Anyways, Vampire Weekend. Good band. Check them out.
Yep, I'm gay.
Okay. And that's what we call a podcast episode.
that's a sode right there.
I was thinking maybe we should end sodes by touching our fingers together now.
No. We can do it. We can do it. We can do it once, but that's it. We're done.
All right.
Cool. Hell yeah.
Good night, Robin.
See ya.